The following is a Spirit Street production.
Oh, man, you guys know what today is. It is that time, Ask Big B Day. Got a lot of good questions for you guys. Me and Fitz are going to break all that down. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, welcome everybody to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is your man Big B, Brien Hanley, along with my man Fitz, Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, how are you doing this fine day?
I'm good. I got a little busy, so I just went with the K-State backdrop today. A lot of breaking news going on. This Big 12's releasing the scheduling matrix for men's and women's basketball. We'll dig into the men a little bit. You have 5 home and away opponents that you play twice, and then 5 that, or whatever it works out to be, the rest, half of them come once and half of them you go to. So that's 5, 5, and 5 is how that breaks down. 20 games. It's pretty interesting, and I think newcomer Arizona might have won on the pairing of opponents. We'll get into that a little bit.
Gotcha. So well, let's just start there. Let's just start
Okay.
right there with that, because I know a lot of people are interested in that. Because the first question that somebody asked was, how did they come up with, like, does the conference come up with who plays who? How do they come up with the scheduling?
Yeah.
And the first thought was, obviously, there's a computer has to be involved with some of it. But for me, there's also got to be a ton of human input too, because I know we talked a little bit before the show as far as TV, what games TV wants and where and all of that kind of stuff. So I just think it's a good mix of stuff.
Yeah, it's, naturally you have a human inputting. I love when they say the computer did it. Well, it had to have parameters.
Correct.
I guess the day could come AI could just do it, but that would get kind of weird. So they plug in probably who they want the home and home opponents to be for each school. They probably, kind of went through everything and made sure it balanced. Everyone had to have 5. Kansas State got old Big 8 foes in Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and Kansas, but then Arizona State and Cincinnati are thrown in. So it gets a little interesting. But we know this, Big B, once the computer gets all that information and gets maybe some preferred TV slots, that we want this game on this day, which I don't know how much pull the networks have in basketball with that, or they just take what comes. Then the matrix, the computer spits it out, and everyone looks at it in the league and gives back their, opinions. And if not enough people object, they go with it. And that's what we ended up with. But now that you have Kansas, Houston, and Arizona in the conference, along with Baylor and Iowa State, 2 programs that seem to be doing pretty well, it gets a little interesting. It's going to be fun to watch these teams sort this out. And if you have a lot of those teams I just listed as a home and home opponent, you got a tough schedule. And if you have fewer, you've got an easier schedule. You're going to play everyone, but it's about who you play twice, most importantly.
Well, think about that. Those 5 schools that you just named. Then you think about fringe schools that we think can be pretty good this year.
Right.
You got BYU, who's got a new coach. You're thinking, oh, they got a new coach. Have you seen some of the talent that BYU has brought in? They are going to be a good basketball team. Not to mention that head coach that they brought in, hell of a basketball coach. They are going to be good. Kansas State, the talent that they brought in, Kansas State is going to be good. Cincinnati is going to be good. Texas Tech is going to be good. This conference, it's just fit. I know we talk about it last year all the time, but Lord have mercy. This basketball conference is going to be better than last year. It is going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for us because we get to watch all these games, but it's going to be brutal. If you are a fan of these teams, you're like, oh my goodness. When do we get a night off? No blowouts. You're not blowing out anybody. It's just week after week, game after game. It's just brutal.
Yep. It's going to be cool too, because the schedule is always going to seem fresh.
Yeah.
As long as they do a good job of splitting up your home and away games. For example, Arizona goes to Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, Iowa State, and Tech. I thought that was interesting. They only picked up one of the other Pac-12 institutions. They don't play Utah or Colorado and their home and away schedule. So if you split those up like early in the season, late in the season, it doesn't give someone an advantage. If you play them within 2 weeks, you're basically playing the same version of the teams that you get, and there's such an
Correct.
evolution over the season. So I don't like that at all. But when you're going to 5 schools that don't come to your place and 5 schools are coming to your place that you don't go to, it keeps the schedule pretty fresh for fans. There's not going to be a whole lot of, we just played these guys, which has been in the past, and it's going to get pretty interesting. I think Arizona kind of won the day in some ways by just catching Baylor, Iowa State, and Tech on their round robin and avoiding Kansas and Houston with that.
Right.
It's kind of significant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to football season, no doubt. I'm a former football guy, obviously, but basketball is going to be incredible. And again, I know we talk about this a lot, and a lot of people say, I'm tired of talking about realignment. I get tired of talking about expansion. But you know what? It's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about, especially when it comes to the Big 12 Fits, just for the simple fact. You see that let's just say a basketball deal doesn't get done now, and the conference goes out and blows it out of the water, and it is incredible this year again. I think somebody's beaten the door down on the Big 12 to possibly get a basketball contract done, Fitz. I think that actually might happen.
I agree. I mean, we don't know what all the outs are. Everything's tied into that current contract, but
right.
We'll see how it all develops, and we'll see if the ACC comes apart and more teams join. Maybe at that point, ESPN just says, "Okay, let's just redo this contract. Let's just open this up." But they also probably feel like they have a good deal if they join some, merge some ACC teams in. I think the next contract for the Big 12 will be very interesting based on what they could do with football ratings, making the most of their opportunities to be in the big time slots on the big platforms, and how much basketball continues to excel. I got to convert it to the postseason a little bit, but I think going to 20 games probably just adds to the wear and tear, but also you're going to be playing some opponents with whom you're less familiar. And that's when it really becomes a war. The players all know each other. The coaches know each other's sets. It just kind of turns into a physical grind of survival. And I think that's where the wear and tear comes at the conference. But this is pretty interesting. Utah has none of the other Pac-12 schools as their home and away. What? They've got BYU, of course, Baylor,
right.
Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. So Utah's getting sent out around the country a little bit. Very interesting. I do wonder how they associated some of these schools and said this is who you're going to play, because some of them just don't make much sense, but that's also kind of fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Just look, get everybody egregiated with everybody around the conference. It kind of seems maybe it's a little bit of that is, I know it would be easier to play these teams, but you know what? Let's just get this thing together and all be one. I think it's a way to be able to do that. Another question that came up here, again, it basically talking about the football aspect of it, is what is the consensus right now is there's 5 teams that can win the Big 12 title in football. It's K-State, Utah, Oklahoma State, KU, and Arizona. Those are the teams that everybody for the most part thinks can win it. So what are some of the things that you think, Fitz, that so all these teams, some questions that they have to answer to be able to get to Arlington?
Well, stay healthy. I mean, that's a question lingering over everyone.
Right.
Kansas is being considered in that top 5 because of Jalen Daniels. Will he stay healthy? Well, Avery Johnson, kind of see his way through this season when everyone trying to take licks at him is a little bit undersized. Will he be healthy? And of course, the quarterbacks at Utah and Arizona are pretty key also. Oklahoma State has a less dynamic quarterback, but can Ollie Gordon stay healthy? And how you navigate this and play consistently at your personality, how you like to play football, that's who's going to succeed. You can't have inconsistencies of effort in this conference, because you'll go to the place on the road where you expect to win, and you'll be down 3 touchdowns at halftime, scrambling in the second half. So
Correct.
if you can achieve a great deal of consistency in performance from game to game, and you're one of the better teams, you're going to probably end up in Arlington.
Right. Mine is with these teams, and I'll break a couple of them down anyway,
Sure.
is, like Utah coming into the new conference. First off, can their quarterback stay healthy? But then handling some of the adversity, going to new places that they've never been before. You think, oh, well, it's football and, you just go wherever they tell you to go and play. It doesn't work that way. Not with kids. I go, and again, and I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about kids that are in college. It doesn't just work that way. Getting to new places and understanding what's going on, sometimes that's unnerving. It is, So for Utah, I think it's that. Handling adversity in places that they haven't been, and can their quarterback be healthy? K-State, you mentioned Avery Johnson, but I'll take that a step further. They got to replace this offensive line.
Yeah.
If their offensive line can gel, then I think K-State got a chance, because I think the defense is going to be there. And just say, if all the skill positions, including quarterback, are there, none of that matters if the offensive line isn't any good. So that's the whole thing with K-State. I think the offensive line, you could say that about anybody, but everybody's not replacing the type of guys that K-State has to replace on their offensive line. So Oklahoma State, Kansas, let me go with Kansas, handling expectations. Yeah, I mean, when has anybody ever thought Kansas was going to be good? In the last 15 years, nobody's thought that Kansas was going to be any good. Well, now everybody thinks Kansas is going to be good. How do you handle that? That's a real thing of dealing with expectations. And how do you handle, okay, we're supposed to be good, something bad happens, okay, a little adversity hits, what do we do? How do you handle being the hunted, Fitz? That's how I like to say it, is being the hunted, because everybody's going to be after Kansas because they know they're a good football team. Oklahoma State, I think if they can continue to keep the chip on their shoulder, they'll be fine. If they get a little, you know what, we're Oklahoma State, we were in the Big 12 championship game last year, we're good, I don't think that's the approach for them. A lot of people are overlooking them, and I think they need to use that to their advantage and just say, you know what, we'll keep this chip on our shoulder, keep underestimating us. That's fine. If they continue to do that, they'll be fine. And then Arizona, they're the 5th team on here that I'm mentioning, and most people have them 5th, but it's more of, do we really think they're that good? They lost their head coach. They lost some guys. Yeah, we're going to put them 5th because of the quarterback that they bring back in last year, but do we really believe they're going to be that good? Use that to your advantage, kind of like Oklahoma State. Use it to your advantage. And again, them coming into the conference, I think Arizona also has to deal with the physicality. Look, I'm not saying Pac-12 football wasn't physical. We know Utah is extremely physical. But how many other of those Pac-12 teams were just this physical brand of football? You got to be able to play that week in and week out in the Big 12. Will Arizona be able to handle that? So that's kind of my thing on what I think these teams need to do to try to get to Arlington.
Yeah, it's a different brand of football in this conference. I think, that's going to be the biggest adjustment. You can argue about whether the teams are better or not overall, but having to go up against a more physical brand of football on a weekly basis, instead of, just spreading it out and let quarterbacks do their thing, is going to be a wake-up call to some of these teams. It's going to be a fun first year. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break here. On the other side of this, we are going to break down the old Texas A&M baseball coach and what he did in leaving that program and going to Texas, and how do people actually feel about the transfer portal now compared to how this went down. We'll be back with one word from our sponsors, Synergy Financial Partners.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. So, Fitz, let's get into this thing, man.
Yep.
Okay. I think his name is pronounced Jim Schlossnagel.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's something like that. And if that's the wrong pronunciation, I apologize. But
No,
you know what?
we don't care.
I'm just going to say that. I really don't care. Don't care at all.
Don't care at all.
Here's the thing. And again, for people that don't know the story, I will break it down for you. Texas A&M in the College World Series, playing well in the final game, wins the first game of that championship series, ends up losing to Tennessee. Reporter comes up and asks the coach afterwards and says, hey, you know, amongst all these reports, you know, we're hearing about another job. Do you have anything to say about it? This reporter has done his job, knows that this man has taken another job, and is asking him in a very professional manner.
Yep.
Coach goes berserk. How dare you ask me that? That's a selfish question, which I don't even know what that means, number one. And then goes off and says, I've given up part of my life to go coach Texas A&M, which who asked you to do that? That would be number one.
What a sacrifice. What a sacrifice to get paid well.
Yeah, I mean, come on. And then just goes off and I've given my heart and soul to this job. Why don't you write that? 24 hours later, he's the head coach of the University of Texas baseball team. And so and now they came out at this press conference. This is the part that I think is hilarious. And I'm sorry I'm being long-winded here.
It's fine.
The part that's hilarious is how they came up with this cockamamie story about how he hid out in a cemetery for 4 or 5 hours waiting for him to get home and then drove to his house the day after they came back. And I'm like, will you stop lying? This man took this job 2 weeks ago. Okay? Stop the nonsense. Nobody wants to hear that. As soon as Texas had an opening, you called, he accepted, end of story. Okay? Nobody wants to hear about, oh, well, he didn't decide. He didn't even know about the job. Didn't even know there was an opening. And then all of a sudden he decided to take it immediately and drove to Austin. Are you serious? Come on, Fitz. What are we doing here, Fitz?
It's so ridiculous. This whole thing is the absurdity of that man having the balls to insult a reporter, a young reporter who actually did a great job, and making it sound like they're the villain for doing their job well. You know, I'm like, dude, now you're just perpetuating a lie that this wasn't cooking the whole time.
Right.
It's not like I ever knew who the man was, but I'm just going to be blunt here. I think he belongs at Texas. He's a freaking snake. I hope Texas enjoys him. This whole thing is so ridiculous. Kudos to the reporter who got it right, and then had to listen to this man insult him and lie at the same time. It's remarkable. If I was Texas, I would have said, you know, no, that's not the person we want, but maybe that is exactly who Texas wants. It's just so I've learned this through my many years. When an administration or a coach gets really fired up, I mean, really aggressive, trying to disprove you were right.
Yep.
It's not the news that they're upset about. It's that it got out and you're to blame. And usually when they're really fired up and they're, you know, accusing you of stuff, you're over the target, man. You're doing a good job. So that's been true throughout my career.
Yeah. It was just unnerving to watch that happen. In this day and age, you know, information gets out. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Texas. I'm sure that's how it got out. I go, so be mad at somebody there, but you're going to take it out on a reporter. I mean, we could go on all day about this. That's not really what I wanted to talk about, though, Fitz. What I really want to ask is, okay, people, coaching leaves. Basically, this man left the job while his team is trying to win a national championship. That's what happened. Now, you can spin it any other kind of way that you want to. You would be wrong. You know, he took another job while his current team was trying to win a national championship. Now, whether you think that's right or wrong, different conversation for a different day. But I know people out there get bent out of shape when kids transfer, don't go to bowl games. They say they're leaving their team high and dry, call them quitters, question their character. They call them names. All these things. Do you still feel that same way? Because this is why the transfer portal exists, is because they said, hold on a second. If these coaches can leave whenever they want to, why can't a kid leave whenever he wants to or she wants to?
Yep.
And this was not even, this was, hey, you're trying to win a national championship. And he's got his eyes on another job. And now we're going to sit back and blame kids for wanting to get a better opportunity or a different opportunity at a different school. And you're going to be so mad at that. I just will never understand that, Fitz.
I'm with you. And as a backdrop to this, the NCAA is moving to tighten up the transfer portal windows from 45 to 30 days. Well, why don't we do that with coaches? You can only take a new job in this 30-day window. You can always talk. There's only time. I mean, first of all, they would never do that because, well, the coaches have to have freedom of movement. Okay. How about the players? You know, and I just don't understand how many times NCAA can do things that are clearly being shot down by the court system and then come back and just do more stuff like that.
Correct.
Like, okay, we've created these portal windows and now we're going to start shrinking them, you know?
Correct.
In about 5 years, it might be a half hour on a Wednesday that you can enter the portal. This is just ridiculous. This coach is an embarrassment. He's a bad dude, man. That is as snake-like as you can come.
Well,
so A&M wins here. They didn't win the national championship, but they got rid of this guy because you obviously couldn't trust him.
Gotcha. I just got a message here. It was another question that we were asking. Well, somebody brought this to my attention and said, so with the transfer portal, people want there to be contracts that have to be signed, and says, okay, if you sign this contract, you got to stay here a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. Well, the last time I checked, every coach has a contract. Right. And every coach can get out of that whenever they want to, if they want to go to a different school. So having these kids sign contracts, Fitz, it's not going to hold up. It's just not.
I mean, there's always a buyout in there.
Yep.
And I guess you could park a buyout in those NIL contracts.
Yep.
Oh, you want out of this 3-year deal early? Okay, well, you're going to need to pay back this, or your new schools have to pay us.
Correct.
And that's going to come. But yeah, there's always a buyout. But it's never significant enough to stop coaches from moving. Rarely. Sometimes there'll be such a steep buyout, the other school will just say, well, we're not helping with that. We'll move on. But for the most part, coaches go where they want. They do what they want. They can make those decisions when they want. They can cheat on their team with another team, just a rival, just your arch rival, and talk about all the things you coaches talk about in the locker room about being one, being united. And you're out there slithering around in the grass in Austin, Texas. Yeah. Come on, man. I'm just, it sucks for the players.
Sucks for the players. And I know a lot of people, they get mad at the players because they move around. And don't get me wrong, it has gotten out of control and is ridiculous. But this is about as bad as it gets, Fitz. Literally, you're trying to win a national championship and you've taken another job. And I'm not even going to bring up the part about it being to your arch rival who is about to join your conference. To me, that's the most insignificant part of it. It's about the kids who you just looked in the face and have lied to the last couple of weeks. And maybe you can say, you know what? He took the job and he had laser focus trying to win a national title. Well, did he have laser focus when he was accepting the other job? No, he didn't. Okay. And don't tell me that he wasn't thinking about this other job. I'm not saying he didn't want to win. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, had a player done this in the middle of the week before the national championship game, if the starting quarterback for Georgia said, you know what, I'm going to go to Notre Dame, I'm done, that kid would be crucified, crucified. Or a basketball, the starting point guard at Kansas the week before the Final Four said, hey, you know what, I'm in the transfer portal, I'm going to UConn. Really, what would happen to them? But here we have this coach who takes another job. I don't know. I don't know. It just burns me up.
I agree.
Hey, you know me, I'm pro player. I'm pro kid. I'm always going to be on their side when it makes sense. Don't get me wrong. When it makes sense. And to me, this is a horrible, horrible look.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah, it's just bad. Just bad. You know what? I thought we had another question, but I don't think we have another one today, Fitz. There was a couple of them, but I think we kind of covered it today, my man.
Okay.
So
Well, we'll come back and talk about a little something. I don't know
yeah,
what.
we'll have our
We'll wrap it
last
up.
break here. We'll come back. One word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial. We'll come back and end the show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Big 12 Insiders. You know, on Ask Big B Day, you know, we kind of got a little sideways there, but I think it was worth talking about, Fitz, because,
I agree.
you know, I just don't think everybody puts the onus, and I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people put the onus on the athletes to always make the right decision, And
Agreed.
we let the adults skate by. And I just don't think that's fair. I think people have to start taking another look at that and saying, hold on a second here. That's wrong. And we understand, at least understand. You don't even have to agree with the transfer portal. At least understand why kids want to make certain decisions.
Agreed. I'm fascinated by the basketball scheduling matrix and how this will impact some of these incoming teams and where they're at and what the conference is deemed as, you know, new rivalries. I think Kansas plays Houston 2 times, and you know, it's going to just make this league even more eventful because there's going to be some really fresh and intriguing matchups throughout this conference. And I like what they did. I'm not a big fan of what they did on the football side, but I think it's kind of fun what they came up with for hoops and who's going to play everyone, who's going to be your home and away opponents. You can check all that out at big12sports.com.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. The football, the only thing I didn't like about the football scheduling, I know that's clearly already been done, is that they couldn't get out of the non-conference / conference games.
Great.
You know, those things, I just thought, man, there's no way to be able to find other opponents. Now, don't get me wrong, football scheduling is incredibly difficult,
Yep.
You know, so I understand that part, but I think it's going to be fun. I really do. I think this basketball thing, the way that they've done it, we'll see how it turns out, but I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be good for the Big 12. I
agree. I mean, I think it's going to be really cool. I'm anxious to see Arizona on its first Big 12 tour, how that impacts it. And, you know, we'll get in a future show. We'll get more into what's going on with the ACC. It seems like some kind of movement may be coming in terms of more news.
Right.
And there could be cataclysmic results of that news, and we'll stay on top of that. Is UConn still in play for the Big 12? Can you imagine having this schedule with UConn in it too?
Unbelievable.
I mean, coaches would just break down and cry. So, you know, if they keep adding basketball schools, if the ACC comes apart, will they move towards basketball or football schools? They're all really interesting questions. We'll be all over in future episodes.
Absolutely. So appreciate everybody again joining us. Remember, as always, like you always do, remember to like, follow, subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you know when episodes are coming out. We're here Tuesday through Thursday through the summer months. Make sure you come and check out the Big 12 Insiders. Until then, we will see you next time. Have a good one.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.